Vince McMahon has spoken in public for the first time since his retirement and subsequent return to WWE last year. In addition to that, he has spoken for the first time since it was announced that WWE has been sold to Endeavor and will be merging with the UFC in a new publicly traded company. He's also spoken about the past accusations made against him. He's also spoken about his creative role in the new look WWE. A ton of extra details on today's massive breaking news story. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. Now, I said earlier today, once the news broke and was made official that WWE had indeed been sold, kind of, to Endeavor, this new company was being made and they were going to be merging UFC and WWE into this new publicly traded company. Endeavor would have the 51% majority share of this new company. Therefore, for the first time in company history, WWE is not controlled and or owned by the McMahon family. And we've got a ton of extra details, reactions, internal, external, public reactions. Vince McMahon and Endeavor CEO Ari Emanuel have spoken to CNBC. A plethora of things have been covered and spoken about, so let's get straight into this one. Vince McMahon first. For the first time since his retirement tweets last year, the last time before today that Vince McMahon had tweeted on his official Twitter account, it said, on July 22nd, 2022, at 77, time for me to retire. Thank you, WWE Universe. Then, now, forever together. Hashtag WWE, hashtag thankful. Well, today, Vince McMahon has tweeted for the first time since then. We can get up on the screen indeed what it says. It's that, historic and almost shocking picture of the WWE Championship and a UFC title bout with a quote from Vincent K. McMahon talking about this merger between UFC and WWE and the purchasing of World Wrestling Entertainment by Endeavor. It says, quote, "Together, we will be a $21+ billion live sports and entertainment powerhouse with a collective fan base of more than 1 billion people and an exciting growth opportunity." Again, absolutely historic and kind of wild just to even see the UFC and WWE logos and championships side by side. Now, as I mentioned, Vince McMahon has spoken publicly in a televised interview for the first time since his retirement, for the first time since this transaction agreement has been announced. So WWE, if you missed it earlier today, it has been officially announced that WWE has officially entered into a transaction agreement with Endeavor in a deal that was announced today, Monday, April 3rd, 2023. Endeavor will merge WWE and UFC, forming a new company. Vince McMahon will remain the executive chairman, while Ari Emanuel will be the CEO of this new company. Speaking to CNBC Squawk on the Street, Vince and Ari discussed the deal. Hat tip to Jeremy Lambert from Fightful for the transcription. He said, quote, "This is the biggest thing Ari Emanuel and Vince McMahon has ever done. Combining forces like this, there's nothing like this. There's never been anything like this. They're going to be talking about this for a long time," said Vince. When asked about other interest and why WWE went with Endeavor, Vince said, "Sure, there were other suitors, but the synergies everyone was very interested in, and I appreciate that, but the synergy that Ari brings, totally different than anyone else." When asked why he decided to sell now, Vince said, "It's the right time. It's the right time to do the right thing. It's been the next evolution of WWE. I could probably do what Ari does right now with the UFC. It'd take me 10 years. In that time, he'll be 10 years ahead of me. It makes all the sense in the world for all the synergies we have to extract all the value we can out of the marketplace." WWE was listed as having an enterprise value of $9.3 billion in the press release. McMahon was reportedly looking for $9 billion in a potential sale. Ari said that Endeavor paid a fair price given the growth opportunities and that everyone thought they overpaid for IMG and UFC, but the value has increased for both brands. McMahon was reportedly willing to step aside if it meant that the sale going through to a suitor, but Ari stated he wanted McMahon to remain on the board. That's the key thing there. According to McMahon, Ari Emanuel wanted Vince McMahon on the board of this new company with this merging of WWE and UFC. He said, quote, "I would have body slammed him if he thought he was going to leave. Here's the man who's seen around the corner at every beat for the last 40 years of this business and has a vision of this business way before a lot of people see it. Him now being able to utilize what we've built in our flywheel, I'm the luckiest guy in the world. I have Vince McMahon, a visionary that sees around the corner. I have Dana White and what we've built. That's pretty unstoppable," said Ari. When asked about how hard Ari had to push him to keep him on the board, Vince said, quote, "Not that much. I love what I do. I love building WWE all my life. It's my passion. To have an opportunity to have it grow like this from an exponential standpoint, it can't be better than that." Vince stated sure, absolutely, when asked if he was willing to step aside for a potential sale. But Ari said, "I wasn't going to let him. We've had a relationship for 23 years. There's a trust, a friendship. When you're going into business and going forward, that's important. I'm glad he chose us because it was a very competitive situation. For us, it's an honor, and we're so lucky because of his vision of where the business is and where it's going." Asked what would happen if they disagreed on something, Vince joked that they would settle it in the ring. Ari said that if there was a disagreement, it meant they shouldn't do. On the subject of creative, and certainly this is the key thing that many WWE fans, their ears would prick up and talk about, of course, Triple H has been running creative after Vince McMahon's retirement last year. Since Vince McMahon's return, it had been stated that Triple H and Vince McMahon would have discussions, but Triple H would have the final say. But despite that, Vince McMahon was backstage at WrestleMania. He did have his own office. He was on headsets offering constructive criticism and some directions as well. So on the subject of creative, Vince was asked if he would be involved in the creative direction of WWE. And this is really, really key here. He says, quote, "Yes and no. On a higher level, yes. In the weeds, which I always loved to get in the weeds in the past, can't do that," said Vince. Finally, and we'll go back to the creative because that's just an entirely separate subject, to be honest. Finally, Vince and Ari were asked about what would happen if Mr. McMahon decided he wanted to get back in the ring. "His choice," said Ari, "purely his choice." And McMahon stated that's not going to happen. Now, of course, McMahon, as I mentioned, retired as WWE CEO on July 22nd, 2022 amid sexual misconduct and hush money allegations. He eventually reached a multi-million-dollar settlement. He returned to the board of directors in January to help lead this sale process. McMahon, though, he was asked about all of these allegations made against him. He was asked about these settlements. He was asked about his retirement. As I mentioned, in June last year, this is when it really started to get rolling. The Wall Street Journal reported that the WWE board of directors had launched an investigation into Vince McMahon over alleged sexual misconduct and hush money allegations. McMahon retired as WWE CEO on July 22nd, 2022 amid the allegations, but returned to the board of directors in January this year to lead the sale of the company. McMahon would reach a multi-million-dollar settlement with Rita Chatterton, who accused Mr. McMahon of assault in 1992. On April 3rd, as I mentioned today, this sale was actually officially announced. And speaking in this same interview on Squawk in the Box, the allegations were mentioned as McMahon was asked about his legacy. He said, quote, "I've made mistakes, obviously, personally and professionally through my 50-year career. I've owned up to every single one of them and then moved on. I'm not sure of the legacy stuff. I'm not going to write it. I don't know. I want to say, as someone who has had an extraordinary amount of fun, great passion for what they did, and wound up with the biggest deal he's ever done in his life," McMahon said as he pointed to Endeavor CEO Ari Emanuel, who was sitting next to him. Ari said the only person who should control his legacy is McMahon. Vince said absolutely when asked if WWE would have sold if the scandal didn't happen, saying, quote, "It makes sense. Nothing has ever happened like this before. I'm always looking for what's best for our stockholders and our company. This is the best thing that has happened in a long time. All the WrestleManias combined don't equal to the magnitude of what we will do together." So McMahon saying that he's owned up to every single mistake he's ever made in his life, both professionally and personally. I don't know if I necessarily agree to that one. Do you? You can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below on that. Now, as far as other people that are going to receive payoffs regarding this sale process, according to Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful, WWE, well, CEO at the moment, but president of WWE in this future new company, Nick Khan, will receive a bonus of $15 million. Triple H will receive a bonus of $5 million in light of their significant contributions to the company prior to and in connection with the transactions and to promote retention. Now, what is really fascinating here, certainly, is that quote about creative, as I mentioned. A lot of people talking about creative, particularly on the finish of WrestleMania last night. Some people saying, was that a Vince decision? Was that a Triple H decision? Once again, this is what Vince McMahon said when it came to if he's going to be involved in creative going forward. He said yes and no. On a higher level, yes. In the weeds, which I always love to get in the weeds in the past, can't do that. Now, if that sounds somewhat familiar to you, it kind of should sound somewhat familiar to you, because if we go back to these images that you can see on the screen right now, this is from 2019. Now, in 2019, it was the 2019 Q2 earnings call after appointing Eric Bischoff and Paul Heyman as the executive directors for SmackDown and Raw respectively. Now, those roles would have meant that Eric Bischoff and Paul Heyman oversaw the writing staff, oversaw the creative for SmackDown and Raw respectively. They would report in to Vince McMahon. Now, when asked about why that he had hired Eric Bischoff and Paul Heyman to become the executive directors of the brands going forward, this is what he said, quote, it's highlighted to look at longer range story arcs and work on character development versus being in the weeds. So essentially, once again, he said, I personally can't be in the weeds any longer. That's what he said in 2019. It's exactly what he said today. And lots of people are pointing out, well, at the same time, look, you said you weren't going to be in the weeds in 2019. How did that work out? Eric Bischoff was with WWE for about 6 weeks. Paul Heyman, a little bit longer than that. But Vince McMahon was still micromanaging and overseeing creative. So just because Triple H is now in charge, Vince McMahon's on public television in front of the worldwide press and viewers, and everyone that's watching has said, well, on a larger scale, I'm going to be involved in creative, but I'm not going to be in the weeds anymore. And this is how it begins. Look at how this has happened. Look at the step by step. Oh, he's back, but he's not an employee. Oh, he's back, but he's employee, but he's not on creative. Well, he's going to have discussions with Triple H, but he's not got the final say. Well, he's going to be involved in the top level creative or all that kind of stuff. It's bit by bit, piece by piece. And at this point, Vince McMahon's back in creative. He said it himself. Not in the minutia, but as of right now, who knows? Now, per John Pollock as well, he tweeted out, of course, John Pollock's from Post Wrestling, saying that an internal email was sent out in WWE that included the line that Paul Levesque will remain as WWE's chief content executive. The email was sent by Vince McMahon to those within the company. So Vince McMahon reportedly is saying to people within WWE that Triple H is going to remain in his role as the chief content officer and as the head of creative still for WWE. But once again, they said that before. Certainly, they said that before. And again, that's going to be a real fascinating thing to see. And if, again, even if it actually becomes a reality, I don't know. I really don't know. Now, as far as a bit of a transaction overview as well, WWE and Endeavor and everyone's been doing as I mentioned, a lot of press this morning talking about it, because it is certainly an historic deal. An historic deal has been made. So this is what the transaction overview says. You can see it on the screen right now. Endeavor to form a $21 billion plus global pure play live sports and entertainment company comprised of UFC and WWE. UFC, which is owned by Endeavor, and WWE will form NewCo, a new publicly listed company that is expected to trade on the New York Stock Exchange. NewCo to be 51% owned by Endeavor and 49% owned by WWE shareholders. NewCo to be capitalized with $150 million cash at closing. Endeavor from UFC and WWE are permitted to retain certain excess cash as part of the closing, and public shareholders of NewCo are expected to receive post-closing dividend. Board of directors comprised of 11 seats total, 6 seats nominated by Endeavor, 5 seats nominated by WWE, each of which will include 3 independent directors. NewCo financials to be consolidated by Endeavor. The transaction is anticipated to be closed by the end of 2023. You can see the graphic on the screen right there as well on the right-hand side of that, saying that you've got the Endeavor shareholders, 100% ownership of Endeavor. They're going to have 51% ownership of this new company. WWE shareholders is going to have 49% ownership of this new company. Is going to be NewCo, this new public company, which is going to be comprised of UFC and WWE. So again, it's going to be a merger. As far as the management team for this new company also again has been revealed. It was released in the press release that we spoke about earlier on, but you can see it on the screen right there as well. It does confirm again who these new people is going to be. Ari Emanuel, as I mentioned, is going to be the Endeavor and NewCo CEO. Vince McMahon is going to be the NewCo executive chairman. Mark Shapiro is going to be the Endeavor and Nuco president / chief operating officer. Jason Lubin is going to be the Endeavor chief financial officer. Andrew Schleimer is going to be the Nuco chief financial officer. Dana White, of course, retaining his position as the UFC president. Lawrence Epstein is going to be the UFC chief operating officer. And Nick Khan, who, of course, at the moment is the WWE CEO, is going to become the WWE president in this Nuco, in this new company. So certainly, again, there is a lot going on. There is a lot of reaction to this. There is a lot of breaking news and breaking stories. That's really more the public reaction. That's more the public discussion of this. Vince McMahon's comments about this, again, absolutely wild, to say the least. It's incredible. And, you know, let's call it out. What on earth does he look like, by the way? It's incredible. So there we go. In terms of the internal reaction, it has been reported that I think at 4 p.m. today, there's going to be a company-wide Zoom call. I'm assuming that Vince McMahon's going to be on this. They're going to speak more on it. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more fallout regarding this, so stay tuned. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right hand corner. Be sure to click the notification bell. You'll be notified every time a new video gets uploaded, we go live or whatever, because this is ongoing and it's absolutely wild to see. So smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right hand corner, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.